Hello and welcome to day 82. We are still in the book of Joshua. We've got chapters 15 to 17 today and 1 Corinthians 8. We are continuing in Joshua a list of the land allocated to the different tribes. There was a pretty extensive list last time, but we didn't get through everyone. And so there's a few more tribes that get land allocated. There's some very specific information about what land they get, how far east, west, north, south it goes, what the highlights are. Now, when we're talking about the tribe of Judah here, and when they get their allocation, at the end, there's an interesting little tidbit that they did not get rid of the people in Jerusalem when they took over their allocated land. They lived together with the Jebusites. Now, Jerusalem was not traditionally Israelite. It was founded by Jebusites and other groups of people. It was not one of the places that they were in control of before they went to Egypt. So this is a new place for them. But then when we read about Ephraim and Manasseh, those tribes, when they get their land, there's also little comments at the end that Ephraim, the tribe of Ephraim, did not move out the Canaanites from Gezer. Manasseh did not take over the towns. Now, later on, as we go through our readings, we're going to see that this is going to cause some problems later on. And I think the reflection for us today is, when has God given us a job that we did not complete? And were there problems later on because of our lack of obedience and faithfulness? In 1 Corinthians 8, this is a very interesting chapter that Paul is writing. The heading that my Bible had was Freedom with Responsibility. And I think this is something that we are really struggling with today in our country at this time. We've got a big debate over how much freedom do I get? Do you get? How much freedom does each person get to make their own decisions? How much freedom does my neighbor get to make decisions? What decisions do I get to make for other people? So this could be areas of zoning, this could be vaccines, this could be speech, this could be religion, this could be assembly, this could be abortion, this could be book bans. There's all sorts of areas where we are debating right now and struggling as a nation, trying to figure out what decisions can individuals make, what decisions does the government or the community make, which decisions do I get to make for myself, what is the impact of my decisions on another person, on my neighbor. This is not easy. This is hard stuff. And there isn't always a really clear line of where freedom ends and responsibility for others begins. So I think this is the core question from this chapter for us today. What is my responsibility to others, and how do I balance that with my freedom? For Paul, he's talking about meat that is burned at a temple, at an altar, and as an offering to idols, to other gods. And there are traditions where people would eat that. Within the Jewish tradition, the meat that was burned at the temple was then given to the priests and their families to eat. That was part of their income. That was how they got food to eat, since they weren't farming and trading. So the question was, can Christians, followers of Jesus, eat the meat that has been burned to pagan idols? Now, Paul points out, the idols don't really exist. It doesn't really matter. Sure, you can go eat it because there's no power in it. It's just meat. So yeah, you can eat it. But he points out that if we have a fellow believer who's still struggling with leaving the world of pagan worship behind, and who still believes that those meats that have been given to other gods are still sacred in some way, then our going and cavalierly eating that meat may be a barrier to the belief of the person next to us. So he points out, Paul writes, that God cares when we use our freedom carelessly and throw other believers off track. Now, in the Methodist tradition, we had a big movement to ban alcohol. We were some of the major movers and shakers to behind prohibition here in the United States. In the British Methodist Church, British Methodist pastors are still banned from ever drinking alcohol at all. Here in the U.S., many Methodists are encouraged not to, but it is no longer a complete ban. But the reason we do it is because we know there are people who struggle with addiction to alcohol. And so we have not drunk alcohol, we have switched to grape juice. In fact, Welch's grapefruit juice was invented, the process for making safe grape juice was invented by the Welch family, who were Methodist, so that Methodists in the United States had a source of grape juice that was safe for communion, but not alcoholic. We do this, even though many of us can drink alcohol without a problem, but we do this as a responsibility that we feel we have for our neighbors, for the believer next to us who may have a problem with alcohol in their lives. Paul points out that Christ gave his life for everyone, and then Paul challenges us, can we give up a meal or other behavior to help someone see Jesus in their lives? So I think this is the reflection from Paul this week or today. Am I willing to get a vaccine to help a neighbor? Am I willing to support laws that let my neighbors make their own choices on what books to read? I think we have to really think through some of the debates we're having in our country and think through, what freedom would I like to have? What freedom does my neighbor have? And where's the responsibility in between us in our relationship, where our decisions allow us a certain amount of freedom, but also allow us to take care of those around us? Tough stuff, really tough stuff. Chew on that today, and we'll see you next time.